Hello and welcome to episode 65 of the Giddy Knits podcast. As always, I'm Helen and I'm coming to you from Dundee in Scotland, where I live with my husband Tom and my two boys, Arthur, who is 6, and Jasper, who is 3. Starting to wonder whether I need a new intro. Is that getting boring? Anyway, welcome back. This is my knitting podcast, or crafty podcast, I guess. I will talk about whatever crafts or knitting or anything that I am up to. And for those of you that don't know, I am the dyer behind Giddy Yarns. So yeah, welcome back and welcome to anyone that is new. Thank you for coming along and joining in. What have I got for you this week? I have got some announcements, just kind of an admin-y section really. I have got a work in progress that I'm going to share. I've got a couple of new cast-ons to share. I'm going to share a little bit of blanket progress, and then I've got a little bit of shop news to talk about right at the end of the episode as well. I am just going to say that we currently have gardeners in our garden, and I have delayed recording this podcast for as long as possible this morning because they have been strimming in the back garden and chainsawing, hedge cutting in the front garden. I think the guy has finished strimming in the back garden and I'm at the back of the house, so hopefully it won't be more noise interruptions, but we will see. For those of you that don't know, we rent our house, and as part of the rent we have gardeners who come and maintain the garden. That obviously hasn't been happening during lockdown, and the chaps that were doing it before lockdown, so last summer really, because they don't come during the winter. So last summer, well, for the last 2 years that we've been here, the people that have come to do it, there's been one very elderly gentleman who must be in his 80s. And I think possibly his son, who was probably in his 40s. Now, we finally heard from kind of our landlords as to what was going on about it this year. And the older gentleman isn't able to do it anymore, completely understandably. And unfortunately, his son doesn't have a car, or doesn't have a working car at the moment, and the commute to drive, I don't know. Anyway, basically, the idea was that the thing that came out of it was that they weren't coming. So we've now got some new gardeners, which is lovely, because for those of you that watched my May vlogs, you would have seen I'll have done a bit of a garden tour. Our back garden is very simple, just a lawn, bit of patio, and we've got some lovely fruit trees and fruit kind of things over there, but it's a relatively simple garden. But our front garden is much more of it's a very established garden. We've got lots and lots of rose bushes and hedges, and it's very quite heavily planted. It's absolutely beautiful and I love it. But it is, far too much for us to maintain while we're both working and we've got the kids and everything like that. So we're quite grateful that the landlady wanted gardeners to come to kind of maintain that front garden. We've done our best with it during lockdown. We have been out there weeding as much as we possibly could, but we just don't have the tools to kind of trim the hedges and stuff like that. So we've been mowing the lawns as best as we can, and we've been weeding as best as we can. Tom has had a good go at pruning the fruit trees and things like that as well this year, so that's been really good. But it is quite a relief to have gardeners back. Anyway, I've rambled now. All of that to say that there might be noise because there's gardeners in the garden. Anyway, right. Tangent. What else was I going to say? I think I've done all the intro stuff that I normally do. Hopefully there will have been my nice new screen up at the beginning of the episode to let you know where you can find me. So let's dive into kind of announcements, admin-y bit. And what was I going to say about that? I was just going to talk about make-alongs. We've got 2 make-alongs running at the moment. There is the Giddy Yarns make-along, which is an ongoing, continuous one that you're probably sick of me talking about, but I just like to mention it. And that is running over in our Ravelry group at the moment. The next prize draw for it is at the end of September because it has quarterly prize draws. If Ravelry haven't sorted themselves out by mid-August, then I will put together some Instagram hashtags so that if you can't use Ravelry at the moment, you are able to still enter for that prize draw. I'm kind of not putting the hashtags together straight away because really the entries don't need to be in until the end of September. So just giving Ravelry a chance to sort things out before I come up with the hashtags for that. We'll see. Anyway, so that is what's happening with that one at the moment. And then we also have the Summer Holidays Make Along, which is running, and that started at the beginning of this month and it's running until the 6th of September, basically to cover the school holidays in England and Scotland. And anything that you can link to the summer holidays in any way, works in progresses that are perfectly acceptable, as long as your finished object is an actual finished object. So no blanket squares, no single socks, that kind of thing. It's got to be kind of a pair of socks or a whole blanket. But as I said, works in progress are allowed. So all the information for that can be found below the video, hopefully, and also in our Ravelry group. We are running that one on both Instagram and Ravelry. So in the Ravelry group, we have got a chatter thread and a finished object thread. And again, that will be linked, or at least the Ravelry group will be linked down below. And on Instagram, you can join in with the chatter by using the hashtag SummerHoles MAL, so SummerHoles Make Along, and post your finished objects on Instagram using the hashtag SummerHolesMalFO. The hashtags will be in the drop down box below the video. And yeah, so come and join in with that. I have actually cast on a project to join in with the make along this time, so that is really good. I love a bit of a make along. It's extra motivation, isn't it, to get a project finished or to work on something, and it kind of gives me a little bit of inspiration as to what I want to work on as well, because rather than just thinking, oh, that yarn's pretty with that pattern, you're kind of thinking about kind of themes and topics and stuff like that, I think. Anyway, that's how it works in my brain. Right, let's talk about some actual knitting, shall we? I have a work in progress that I'm going to share with you this week. Living in my lovely little grey girl bag here. And this is my Vesties Unite. As you know, if you've been watching a while, I've been working on this for a while. It's quite slow progress. It's a pattern by Stephen West, and this is the small version. I'm knitting the large version. I'm pretty sure this picture, does it say anywhere? No, it doesn't. But I'm pretty sure that picture is the small version. And I'm knitting the larger version. I may have got that wrong. Maybe that's the right size. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. That's kind of what it'll look like when it's completed. As I said, so it's Vesties Unite by Stephen West. And this is where I am at. Let me see if I can untangle my needles. So here we go. I am getting there with this first section. So when I last recorded, I was just here. I had just started the decrease section, and I am getting there. I have to decrease down. Basically, you cast this bit off, so you decrease down until there's very few stitches left, and then you cast off. And then for the next section, you pick up the stitches. And I should have somewhere, oh yeah, just there, a little stitch marker that then lets you know where you're picking up from. And I think, anyway, that's the plan. But yeah, I'm getting there. So close to finishing this section. Yeah, I'm really pleased with it. I'm really enjoying how the colours are working. If you can tell in this section, it's kind of a striped section. So it's a two row stripe with just simple garter stitch. And the yarns I'm using for this section, as I'm sure if you've been watching for a while, you'll know, are these two. So this is Bramble from Down Sheepy Lane. And this is Jelly of the Month from Suburban Stitcher. And then the next section that I'm going to be working on, section 2. So this in the picture, this bit here is section 1. And then this bit down here is section 2. So the next bit I'm working on is also a striped section. And that is striped in colours C and D, which for me are these two colours. So that one is Geralt of Rivia. Geralt of Rivia. It's one of Down Sheepy Lane's Witcher colourways. And then this one is, I think it was called Hold On Tight, but it was from Debbie's, again, down Sheepy Lane, Debbie's Tim Burton Club last year. And it's from, it's a reference to Miss Peregrine's Home or School for Peculiar Children. So yeah, I'm looking forward to working those two together. My cakes are getting a bit messed up in my bag, but oh well. So hopefully I will have started that by next week. I always say that, don't I? We'll see. But I'm so close to finishing this section. I am really enjoying it though. I would highly recommend the pattern so far. I mean, this section has been so simple. I've literally needed to look at the pattern to know what I'm doing within. It's kind of like a 4-row repeat, but really simple. So, you know, 1 row you might increase, but the rest are really simple. And the same with the decreases. It's kind of a 4-row, 2 rows with colour 1, 2 rows with colour 2, and repeat basically. So it is really simple. It's a really nice mindless pattern. Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to working on it a bit more. I can move my stitch marker now to say that that's where I was. But I'm going to do that now because sometimes I forget and then I have to kind of fudge it a little bit. But there we go. We have moved the stitch marker. So that is where I was when I last showed it to you. And as I said, I've got a couple of new cast-ons. If you watched last week's episode, you'll know that I finished a pair of socks last week. So I have cast on 2 new pairs of socks. I'll start with the really simple one. It's living in this little bag, which is from Bertie and Poppet, who are a Nottingham-based bag maker, I believe. Yes, right, it's got her little label in there. I don't know if you can see that. Bertie and Poppet, Nottingham. And this is just going to be a pair of vanilla socks. And I am using this self-striping yarn from the Yarn Badger. And this is in the Campfire colourway. So it's the Yarn Badger. It's in the Campfire. It just says it's a merino nylon with 20% with sparkle. So I'd imagine it's a 75, just knowing the base, it'll be 75% superwash merino, 20% nylon and 5% silver stellina. So it is nice and sparkly. I think that's actually coming across okay on the camera there. And then I am going to use this one here for the heels and toes. And this was a 100-gram skein. I've wound off approximately 30 grams from the 100-gram skein just so it fits in my bag better. But this is what I'm going to use for the heels and toes. It's kind of an orangey red colour. This is from Ellen at Mrs. Lamb's Yarns. And it's her sweet and sour colourway, and it's a bronze stellina base, so it's got 75% superwash merino, 20% nylon and 5% bronze stellina. I don't know how well that will come across on the camera, and you can I can see the stellina there, but I don't know if you can kind of tell the bronze colour of it on the camera or not. But yeah, I think that will work quite well. I've not done a lot on these yet. I have just cast on the first sock. I'm trying not to drop the ball on the floor. So yeah, I've done the rib and I've just started the first stripe on the first sock. But it is absolutely lovely. I've not knit with, or have I? No, I don't think I have knit with self-striping from the Yarn Badger before. She does amazing at self-striping with a lot of colours in the repeats as well. It's not just kind of 4 or 5 colours. She does some amazing ones. So if you're looking for a good self-striping dyer in the UK, I would highly recommend the Yarn Badger. So yeah, this is where I am so far, and I think this is going to work quite nicely as a heel and toe with the colours in this. So yeah, that's kind of my simple, just work on it when the kids are around and when I just need something, or if we're allowed to go out more, I can take this to the park if I take the kids to the park, because our playgrounds are open, which is amazing. And kids up here in Scotland, children under the age of 12, don't need to socially distance from each other or from other adults, which makes playgrounds and things like that a lot easier. It also means that we've been able to have some of Arthur's friends round in the garden just for a little bit of a play, and that has made all the difference to Arthur. Yeah, it's been really good. So it is nice to see things slowly up here, but slowly relaxing, and yeah, hopefully the same is true everywhere and you're all feeling a little bit less locked down. Anyway, yeah, just some simple vanilla socks. I'm not going to do anything fancy with these. I've just done a 2x2 rib, and I am just going to work in stocking stitch down the leg and the foot and pop that in as a heel. So nothing complicated, but I think that always works really well with self-striping. Right, and then I also cast on another pair of socks. And again, there's not a lot to show you on these yet, but they are my entry for the summer holidays make along. They're living in this lovely little bag from Debbie at Down Sheepy Lane. I showed this not long ago on as part of my yarny goodness. And the yarn I'm using is also the yarn that came with this bag. So I like these. So this bag has got little pockets in the front, and I've put the little yarn label just in the little pocket, which is really, really handy. So basically, this is the yarn. Start with that, shall we? So this is the yarn that came with the bag, so you can kind of see it matches. It's really, really pretty. And then it comes with this yellow for heels and toes. So that is the plan. And I am knitting the Cornish Cream Tea socks by Curious Handmade, Helen Stewart. I've just realised I haven't printed out the picture, but there is a little picture there. Don't know how well you can see, but as you can see, it's kind of a lace sock with a bit of cables. It's quite an intricate kind of lace and cable pattern. But that is what I am working on. And of course, summer holidays, it's Cornish cream tea, isn't it? So that for me can't say more about summer holidays than a Cornish cream tea. And the yarn, as I said, the yarn is by Debbie, and it's Botanical Garden was the colourway name in the lilac version. So again, that's kind of summer holidaysy. Shall I actually show you the project? That's what I've not done yet, isn't it? So as you can see, I've not done a lot. It's just starting to poke out the bottom of my needle cozy. These needle cozies, by the way, are from Craft House Magic. They are DPN cozies technically, but I've said this on the podcast before. I don't knit with DPNs, I knit Magic Loop, and I use these DPN cozies just the same as you would, basically. They work for Magic Loop and they work for DPNs. So yeah, anyway, this is where I am. I have finished one repeat. Actually, hang on, let me slide that onto the wire and then I'll be able to show you a little bit more easily. I have finished one repeat of the pattern. There we go. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see that. See if I can get it in the light a little bit better. It is a really interesting pattern, actually. I'm really enjoying it. It has a very interesting kind of combination here, where all of these stitches are suddenly pulled in together to create this really interesting kind of V section. Yeah, it's really, really enjoyable. I'm using the charted instructions because I find that easier nowadays with a lace kind of pattern. But Helen Stewart, if you've never knit any of her patterns, Curious Handmade patterns, they are very, very, very simply laid out and really, really easy to follow. If you cannot read charts, you do not need to worry. She writes out her instructions line by line for the whole pattern, and it's in a really, really well-formed grid kind of system so that you can just tick off every single line as you knit it, which is what I used to do. I mean, as I said, I'm just following the chart, and to be fair, I won't follow the pattern as it's written. So I've done my own cuff, and then I'll follow the chart for the front of the leg for the pattern. Then I'll put my own heel in, and then I'll follow the chart for the top of the foot for the pattern, and then I'll probably put my own toe in too. Just because I know what heels and toes I'm comfortable with and what I can knit from memory, basically. But obviously all of those things, the heel and the toe and the cuff, are in the pattern if you need them. But yeah, I would recommend any of her patterns if you're a relatively new sock knitter or you've not tried anything more complicated than vanilla socks. Her socks are her patterns even are a really kind of simple and easy to follow way to go. But yes, this is my entry. So that's good. I'm glad to have a couple more pairs of socks on the needles. I obviously have a few other projects in my whips that I need to work on a little bit more, but you know, you just lose motivation for things, don't you? And then the motivation comes back and, oh, what am I doing? So anyway, that is my 2 new cast-ons. So the other thing I was going to share was a little bit of blanket progress. And I am going to share what I have been doing on Arthur's blanket, which I shared on the podcast a few weeks back, I think. But I have finished the squares for the next row. They're living in this lovely little bag. This is one of Ali, a Little Drops of Wonderful. This is one of her dodgy bags, which she very kindly gifted to me. And yeah, I've got one of her little pins on here as well. You see, you are a little drop of wonderful. She sells these pins in her Etsy shop if you are interested. I will link all of those things down below in the show notes. Anyway, the project, the blanket. I have just finished the squares. So this is Arthur's blanket. This is the blanket that I am making using all of the minis from Debbie at Down Sheepy Lane a couple of years ago. She ran a colour of the month, and each month was inspired by Disney films. And she did a whole skein, and then she also did a mini bundle. And I bought all the mini bundles. Apart from this one, actually, I bought all the mini bundles throughout the year, and with the intention of turning them into a blanket. I completely missed November's, because November in that year just ended up being completely chaotic, and I forgot to order them, and then I missed them. And then when I ordered something else, or when I ordered November, I can't quite remember how it all happened, but Debbie had realised that I'd missed these, and she very kindly included them in a package for me. Yeah, so I have got the full set for the blanket, so that was amazing. So this is the Mickey Mouse set. It was Happy Birthday Mickey, it was called. And it's got, so you've got a black, I've just done the one of the black for the central. Two, they've got these little variegated ones, and then we've got kind of a tonal red, a tonal pink, and a tonal yellow. So these have all now been crocheted up. They've also all been bordered. And they are ready to be joined and added to his blanket. And this is the penultimate set of squares. So I think this afternoon I'm going to dig out the next set, the final set of squares, the final set of minis even, and cake them up so that I can get the final row of Arthur's blanket completed. And then hopefully not too long, and I will have everything joined and in the blanket, and then I just need to work out what I'm doing about a border of some kind, which is going to take forever because the blanket is massive. But yeah, some blanket progress has been happening on something other than my Cozy Memories blanket. I'm not going to share my Cozy Memories blanket. I have been working on it. I am probably 2, maybe 3 squares behind this month at the moment. But I'm quite confident that I can catch those up. I can just have a day where all I work on is the blanket and I will catch those up. So that is fine. So that is everything pretty much in terms of blanket progress. I haven't got any yarny goodness to share with you this week, which is probably a good thing considering I've had quite a lot over the last month. But I will just talk a little bit about some shop news. So the next thing that I've got coming up, I'm just looking down at my show notes, sorry. The next thing that I have got coming up is Yorkshire Yarn Fest. On the 18th of July, I am taking part in the virtual Yorkshire Yarn Fest that has been running kind of throughout lockdown and throughout everything since the shows haven't been able to take place. So I am joining in again this time. It's the second time I've joined in with it. So Yorkshire Yarn Fest runs on Instagram basically, and what you do is if you follow Yorkshire Yarn Fest's Instagram page, everything kind of takes place over there, and it's done as a series of 15-minute live videos throughout the day, with each of the vendors having a 15-minute live slot. And you can watch those once they've been done. Most of the vendors should, in theory, if they've done it correctly, save their videos as an Instagram TV video, so they're accessible for people to watch kind of throughout the day rather than having to be there at that exact moment. But my Instagram live slot is at 12:55, so 5 to 1, British summertime, for anyone who is not in the UK, and that is on the 18th of July. Did I say that? Yeah, so I am going to be restocking a few bits and pieces. I will be restocking the Bedtime Stories collection and the minis for that. I will be restocking the Flower Fairies collection and the minis for that. I will be restocking the Winnie the Pooh colourway, so Pooh Sticks will be back in stock, as well as the Winnie the Pooh minis. And I'm not restocking the Cornwall collection this time round. I will hopefully restock that in August sometime. There is just a little bit of a limit on the number of minis that I can dye at the moment because of stock levels with my supplier. And then I will be introducing a brand new yarn collection. And I can't share it with you, which is really bad timing because I haven't dyed it yet. I'm dyeing it on Monday and Tuesday this week. But it is kind of, it's themed around fairgrounds. I think I'm going to call the collection something like All the Fun of the Fair. And it's kind of that, I wanted something that was kind of summery, and Arthur said something to me the other day about really missing the fair, and he wanted to go to the fair. He loves a fairground. So that kind of sparked something and sparked my inspiration. So that's what we're going with. So there are 5 colourways that I'm going to be creating, inspired by kind of a mix of the rides and the kind of food that you get at the fair, basically. So I'm going to be doing a carousel colourway inspired by carousel horses. I'm going to be doing a waltzers colourway. I'm going to be doing a helter skelter colourway, and then I'm going to be doing a candy floss colourway and a toffee apple colourway. So I've created like a little mood board thing, which I'll put on the screen so it can kind of give you an idea, but it will be 5 individual colourways based on kind of each of those pictures roughly. Well, that's what I'm using as my inspiration, and I will do what I've done with the Bedtime Stories collection and the Flower Fairies collection, and I will also break down some of the 100-gram skeins so that I can put together mini skein bundles where you get kind of one 20 grams of each of the different colourways. So that is my new collection that we'll be launching, and it will be launching for Yorkshire Yarn Fest. Yeah, and I'm also hoping to get some more of the blue fade kits in stock for Yorkshire Yarn Fest as well. If I get chance and if stock levels allow, I might only be able to do those on some different bases. I think I've definitely got enough single ply to do them on single ply. I'm just looking over at my stock levels. I need to keep some stock back for the Yarn Club this month. Basically, my 100-gram skeins that I buy for my supplier will be back in stock at the end of the month, but that's obviously too late for the Yarn Club, so I need to keep stock back to have for the Yarn Clubs as well. I've also got some merino bamboo, so maybe I'll dye it up on merino bamboo. I think that could be quite interesting as a shawl. Anyway, we'll see. They will be in stock, basically, hopefully, if I get time. But yeah, that was the major thing that I wanted to talk about. That is the next big shop update and shop news, yeah. Advent-wise, there are 4 advents left in stock. So if you're after an advent, then grab those quickly. Right, I think that is pretty much everything. I've managed to keep it a little bit shorter again this week, which is good. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all. Will I see you next week? What is next weekend is Yorkshire Yarn Fest. Yes, but I might record a day late. I might record on the Sunday instead of the Saturday so that I'm not doing too much video stuff on the same day. But hopefully I will be back next week. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again very soon. Bye.